Thank you. Very good morning, Malaysia and from India. Welcome to the second day of India ASEAN Pharma Business Meet, which we had. We have started with Vietnam on day one, and day two we are doing it with Indonesia. So we are joined by 112 delegates from overseas as well as 30 delegates from Indonesia and 57 companies from India today. We are happy to see such kind of participation with the support of embassy and the GP pharmacy. Sir, I take this opportunity to welcome the dignitaries present today. His Excellency Mr. Manoj Kumar Bharti, Ambassador of India to Indonesia, Ms. Nova Amalta, Coordinator Generic Medicine Registration, Drug Department BPOM, Mr. F. Tirtho Kusnadi, Chairman GP Pharmacy, Mr. Vincent of GP Pharmacy, and Mr. Narayanan. Sir, I take this India-Indonesia Pharmaceutical Business Meet. Now, with this, I would like to welcome, I request Mr. Ravi Uday Bhaskar to kindly give his address on Indian pharmaceutical industry meeting global needs. Sir, I welcome you. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, His Excellency Mr. Manoj Kumar Bharti, Ambassador of India to Indonesia, Ma'am Nova Imelda, Mr. Tirtho, and Mr. Vincent, and V. Narayanan, Counselor, Embassy of India. Good morning, everyone, and really it gives me immense pleasure to be part of this engagement. And I'm also privileged to talk about the capabilities of Indian pharmaceutical industry in a very brief way. So at the outset, particularly the Indian pharmaceutical industry is popularly known as pharmacy of the world. We're exporting drugs to more than 200 countries. We're always in the forefront in fighting against the dreaded diseases. Whenever there is a pandemic, we are always ready and providing quality drugs at affordable price. So more than 25 years back, we are responsible in saving hundreds of millions of population from the dreaded diseases like HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis. And at the same time, we are not only providing quality and efficacious drugs, we are also providing at a very affordable price. So this is the strength of Indian pharmaceutical industry. You are also aware of that. You know, India is having highest number of US FDA approved facilities, and 55% of our drugs are going to highly regulated markets. You're aware of that. What are the regulated markets? They are not only regulated in terms of regulations. They are economically strong, and their health indicators are also at a very high level. More than 55% were exporting to those countries. Out of that, 35% to North America, and 17% to Africa, and 15% to Europe. ASEAN is our fifth largest exporting destination. So in the financial year 1920, we exported 20.6 billion US dollars worth of drugs to different countries, particularly during the pandemic. So India supplied the drugs like hydroxychloroquine, paracetamol, and some antivirals, which are used in the treatment of COVID to more than 150 countries. So we recorded almost 7.5% positive growth. The bright spots, particularly in the financial year 2021, is that. So we already exported 19.6 billion US dollars worth of drugs at 12% positive growth within 10 months. So it's amazing actually. Nobody expected that, particularly these logistic issues and lockdowns and all these things. We expected that something is not very good is going to happen, but it was surprise not only to the pharmaceutical industry and also to the entire world that we are going to touch 25 billion in the financial year 2021 with I'm expecting it will touch more than 14% growth. So in the recent past, actually, if you go back to 18 19 and 16 17 and 17 18, so this growth is phenomenal, particularly during unconducive environment and due to this COVID and all. So we are moving very fast and we are giving so many answers to the COVID. So in the vaccine front also, you're all very much aware of that. Indian companies are in the forefront. Earlier, we used to supply vaccines. 70% of our WHO requirement is from India. We are known for producing the vaccines which are needed for immunization, the program. Nobody expected that India will rise to the occasion and develop a vaccine to COVID-19. So, for example, Bharat Biotech is an Indian company in collaboration with ICMR has developed an indigenous vaccine, Covaxin, and now and the other company who are the largest manufacturer of vaccines, Serum Institute of India, in collaboration with AstraZeneca and Oxford, they also developed a vaccine. Now both these vaccines are going throughout the world, and we have already exported to more than 75 countries. So five more companies, particularly working on the vaccines, and they are at different stages of clinical trials. And one more good news is that the Bharat Biotech is work has submitted their proposals to Drugs Control Journal of India for to initiate clinical trials for nasal vaccine. So globally, there are only four companies are working on the nasal vaccine for COVID-19. So this is a very good news, particularly on the vaccine front. So it's not only good news to the Indian population, it's going to be a very good news to the entire global population to fight against this COVID-19. So I'm coming back to the Indonesia. Indonesia and India are very closely connected, and our embassy also, particularly during pandemic, embassy is always in touch with us, and our ambassador as well as Mr. Narayananji regularly on updating the pharmacy as well as government of India on the developments, and they are very proactive in taking it forward. And in that process, the last year 1920, actually it was quite disappointing that our exports to Indonesia was only 106 million with minus 25% growth. Then we are a little bit disappointed. But if you see in this financial year 2021, particularly in these 10 months, we have already crossed 127 million US dollars with 58% positive growth. We know nobody expected that minus 25 will go to 58% positive growth. I'm very much thankful to the Indian Embassy as well as the associations from Indonesia in taking this the forward. It's also very interesting, and it is good to the Indian pharmaceutical industry. The foreign direct investment earlier it was 85%. Now the Indonesian government has made it 100%. This will encourage the Indian pharmaceutical industry to collaborate with Indonesia. Indonesia is very strong in vaccine front also. So the India and Indonesia can work on this area, particularly on the vaccine side and the APIs. This is going to be very helpful to the Indian pharmaceutical industry. So with this, I would like to conclude my talk. Once again, I'm very much thankful to His Excellency for inviting the FDA Indonesia to be part of these discussions. And GP Pharmacia is always closely working with us. Vincent and Tito, they always present in all the programs organized by Pharmaxil, and they're good friends to Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India. I hope the coming few hours are going to be very helpful to the delegates from Indian side as well as from the Indonesian side, and particularly the presentation from Ma'am Nova Imelda is going to be very useful. With this, thank you and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, sir, for the brief on how India is meeting the global needs, pharmaceutical global needs. Sir, I take this opportunity to invite His Excellency Mr. Manoj Kumar Bharti, Ambassador of India to Indonesia, to kindly give his inaugural remarks on India-Indonesian cooperation and way forward. Sir, I look forward to hearing from you, sir. We welcome you to give your remarks.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me welcome all the delegates as well as Ibu Nova Imelda from the Indonesian side to this gathering. Her presence here is of immense importance because we need to hear from her about the Indonesian perspective on this issue. I will like to say that this meeting is taking place after a gap of 2 years, and the backdrop has been the COVID related pandemic as well. And what we have been seeing in the last almost a year is that it has disrupted the entire working of government, private business, people's lives, and everything. Fortunately, with the coming of vaccines in use, people are full of hope that probably the next half of 2021 or at the most 2022 will begin a normal operation for all of us. Uh, Coming to the pharmaceutical and pharmaceutical industry, India and Indonesia have similar climate, and also we have both very dense population. All of you know that India is the second largest country in terms of population, and Indonesia is the fourth largest. Jointly, we form nearly 1.6, more than 1.6 billion people. There is a great opportunity for cooperation in pharmaceutical business just to deal with such a huge population in our two countries. It has already been mentioned that India has established itself as a global manufacturing and research hub of pharmaceutical products. A large raw material base and the availability of the skilled workforce has given the industry a definite competitive advantage in India. India is also the largest supplier of generic medicines globally, with 20% of global export volume, especially for controlling hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. 30% of pharmaceutical raw materials supplied to Indonesia comes from India. The low cost of production and increasing expenditure on R&D, uh, where Indian pharma industry has invested 8.8% of sales, has led to a competitive pharma exports which reached US $20 billion in the year 2019 and 20, and it's likely to reach 25 billion in the current financial year. When I came to Indonesia, and a bit before that, I was told about unusually high prices of pharmaceutical products and, in general, health services in Indonesia. And that is when this quest started to find out what the reason is, how we can help in bringing cost of normal pharmaceutical products to a reasonable level so that people in Indonesia are not uh, uh, kind of put to inconvenience the way it is now. I have noticed that before coming to Indonesia, I had gone my PCR test done in India. The cost of PCR test in India is almost 5 times less of the PCR tests being done in Indonesia. And the almost similar thing goes for almost all medicines that one needs to purchase. There is a need for understanding what is happening in Indonesia in the pharmaceutical sector and in what way India can collaborate. India is willing to partner with Indonesia for supply of bulk drugs in which area it is ideally poised, being the largest number of FDI approved drugs and one of the largest suppliers of drugs to the US. India would be happy to explore possibilities for cooperation with BPJS in generics and APIs to enable bring quality drugs at affordable price to the common man in Indonesia. Regulation of drugs in Indonesia takes up to 365 working days. If Indonesia could identify 2 to 3 categories of most used drugs and facilitate its easy entry from India by easing regulatory issues, this would save a lot of funds which would be diverted for infrastructure development in Indonesia. Here, there is another point that I would like to mention, as was mentioned by the earlier speaker, that many of these drugs are getting into very regulated markets all over the world. There are many countries where, let's say, a regulation of registration in US or European Union is accepted for an easy registration process. I would very much like to request Indonesia to uh, take note of certain specific life-saving and normal use drugs in Indonesia, which could be given these kind of fast track registration process. And this is only basically to provide more solace to people, common man, common people in Indonesia. We have noted the recent regulation under the Omnibus Law, which has opened up 100% foreign ownership in pharma sector. I take this as a recognition by the Indonesian government of the necessity to give more freedom and more opportunity for pharma sectors and products and investment. It is very much welcome, and I encourage um, all bureaucrats in Indonesia, all decision makers in Indonesia, to provide further ease of doing business, ease of registering drugs, ease of making investment in the pharmaceutical sector in India. Indian companies can also explore setting up of manufacturing units of active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs, To augment the Indonesian health insurance scheme, it may, however, be pointed out that as per extant regulation, API are allowed duty-free import into Indonesia from many countries, including China, which poses considerable risk for for the very existence of new manufacturing units. If somebody wants to invest in API in Indonesia, government requires to give enough incentive for the investor so that they can compete with these kind of duty-free imports or low duty imports. That is one very important point to ponder. As per BPS statistics, 30% of pharmaceutical raw materials supplied to Indonesia comes from India. However, given the size of Indonesian pharmaceutical market, which in 2021 is about 10 billion US dollars, there is immense scope to improve upon the existing level of engagement in finished formulations, APIs, etc. Indian suppliers, Indian industry still has a very small, if not minuscule, share of this pharmaceutical industry in Indonesian market. In 2021, Indonesia spent 6.2% of its GDP, which is almost $11.6 billion, in healthcare expenditure, of which 60% was spent on the treatment of five major diseases: cardiovascular, cancer, diabetes, TB, and malaria. There is ample opportunity for cooperation with Indian pharma industry in these areas for significant reduction in costs for the average consumer in Indonesia. I will once again request the decision makers in Indonesia to look at these kind of what I call low hanging fruits. We can catch some of these things. It will help the common person in Indonesia a lot. I express my confidence that this particular meet will be giving a fillip to B2B linkages in pharma sector and wish this business meet all success. I hope this process of interaction with the Indonesian authorities and business community will be very useful for the Indian pharmaceutical industry. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, for your address and yes, the cooperation way forward. Thank you so much, sir. Now I invite Ms. Nova Emelda, Coordinator Generic Medicines Registration, to kindly give her special address on policy updates on drug registration. Ma'am, I invite you to kindly give your address.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, uh, delegate from Indonesia and India. Uh, Honorable Her Excellency Mr. Manoj Kumar Bharti, the Ambassador of India to Indonesia. Honorable Mr. Tirto Kusnadi and Mr. Vincent from the GP Pharmacy Indonesia. And then Mr. Murali Krishna and Mr. Rafi Uday Bhaskar from the Pharmaxil. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to convey Ms. Rizka apologize that she cannot attend this important meeting due to the other assignment. And with this, and then we say thank you to the organizing committee to be able to arrange this meeting too. In this occasion, I would like to present about the policy updates on drug registration in Indonesia. Is my presentation can be up now? Organizing committee.
Anhat, please share the
Share
madam's
the
presentation.
presentation, please. Okay, thank you. In this occasion, I would like to present about the policy updates on the drug registration in Indonesia. Next slide, please. This is the outline of my presentation. First about the introduction and the pre-market control, and then emergency use authorization. Next, the introduction. Next, this is the legal framework about Badan POM. Is the first is the Presidential Decree number 80 2017 regarding Indonesia FDA to strengthen the Badan POM's regulatory function in law enforcement, and then Presidential Instruction number 3 2017 regarding the drug and food control effectiveness improvement, and then regulation of the head of the Indonesia FDA number 26 2017 on the organization and business process of the Badan POM, and then regulation of the head of NIDFC number 11 2018 on classification criteria of technical implementation unit in Badan POM, regulation of the head of the Indonesia FDA number 12 2018 on the organization and technical implementation unit and in Indonesia FDA. The vision is to provide safe, high quality and competitive food and medicine to create an advanced, sovereign, independent and having character based on mutual cooperation. Next slide. This is the drug regulatory framework in Indonesia. Drug regulatory framework in Indonesia cover both pre and post market control, starting from the time when the drug is under development until the product is distributed to the market. This approach is in line with the WHO NRA global benchmarking tools for national regulatory authority. For pre-market control, Indonesia FDA has the function for conducting drug evaluation for marketing organization, which includes evaluation of efficacy and safety, quality and product information, and ensuring good manufacturing practices implementation. For post-market control, Indonesia FDA has function for conducting inspection of drug manufacturing, distribution and services facilities for monitoring GMP and good distribution practices compliance, sampling and testing, including lot release for vaccine, drug labeling, and advertisement control, including pharmacovigilance and special for vaccine. We control adverse effect following the immunization. Next slide, please. This is about the pre-market control. So next. According to the regulation, all medicine marketed in Indonesia should be apply for registration to obtain marketing authorization. Indonesia FDA has been mandated for the drug registration process in Indonesia. The objective of drug registration is to protect public health toward unexpected risk medicine by providing assurance of the quality, safety, and efficacy of medicinal product marketed in Indonesia through the evaluation in the quality, safety, and efficacy of the product. This is the legal provision. First is the Health Law number 36, 2009, the MOH Decree number 1010, 2008 on drug registration, and then regulation of the head of the Indonesia FDA number 24, 2017 on criteria and drug registration procedure, and the addendum of the Indonesia head of the Indonesia FDA 24 2017 is number 15 2019 about the acceleration, and then the recent one is number 27 2020 about the emergency use authorization. Next slide, please. So Directorate of the Drug Registration has three main functions in drug regulatory system, which are clinical trial authorization, drug registration and evaluation, and then special access scheme. Next, please. All the registration in Indonesia is already using the electronic registration system. Is an online registration system that used for the registering drugs to Badan POM. In increasing public services in the registration process for drugs and biological products, it's become more effective, efficient, fast, easy, and transparent. And during this pandemic situation, this online registration is really helpful for everybody, so everyone can register and can track their registration through online. Next, please. And then this registration can be using the many multi-platform, can use the PC, tab, and then even your cell phone. So it can be accessed everywhere and every time. Next. The criteria for drug evaluation is quality, safety, and efficacy. The evaluation for quality is based on evaluation quality data of active substance and finished product, as well as the compliance with the current GMP. The evaluation for safety and efficacy is based on evaluation of non-clinical and clinical studies. The summary of evaluation will be reflected in the product information and labeling. Therefore, the content of information should be complete, objective, and clear to ensure rational use of medicine. Next slide. As I mentioned that Badan POM conduct the oversight of clinical trials for drug registration. There are two types of oversight of clinical trials, which are first through the IND mechanism, and second through the clinical trial application. In this IND mechanism, we provide guidance and consultation for pharmaceutical industry, as well as monitoring and evaluation the result of each of study conducted in each stage of drug development. Therefore, the IND activities involving multidisciplinary expertise in the integrated evaluation process. In the clinical trial application, Badan POM oversight a clinical trial by only reviewing clinical trials documentation. The output for both mechanism of clinical trial oversight is the approval for conducting the clinical trial. During the clinical trial implementation or process, we conduct the GCP inspection to ensure the compliance of the conduct of clinical trial with the GCP standard. Next slide, please. This is about the special access scheme. In Indonesia, there are two institutions that use, in charge for the special access scheme. So, in special circumstances, drugs without marketing authorization are allowed to be imported and used for the following purposes. So, for the Ministry of Health, they in charge for the special use drug for personal use with responsible doctor, except for vaccine and biological product, and drugs for urgent national interest, donation, except for vaccine and biological product, and then in vitro reagent used for research and development. So for Indonesia FDA, we in charge for the drugs or drug substance, including biological product used in research and development for drug registration. Second, biological product, including vaccine for personal use with responsible doctor, drugs for urgent national interest, and donation. So for all the biological product, the special access scheme is under the Indonesia FDA. And for drugs, including drugs for clinical study and bioequivalence study. Next slide. The emergency use authorization. Next slide, please. Following the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indonesian FDA has revised the regulation on drug registration by issuing the Indonesian FDA regulation number 27 2020 by adding emergency use authorization, which is an approval for the use of medicine and vaccine in a public health emergency situation for those that have not yet obtained marketing authorization or for those that have obtained marketing authorization for other use or indication. The EUA is not a marketing authorization. The Indonesian FDA accelerate the registration and importing license timeline, which include reduced timeline for the pre-registration from 40 working days to become 6 hours, and then reduced timeline for new drugs and biological from 300 working days, vary from 100 to 300 working days based on a risk assessment to 20 working days. And reduced timeline for generic registration from 150 working days to 5 working days. And then the next is the reduced timeline for importing license from 8 hours to 2 hours. Next slide, please. The EUA, the emergency use authorization could be issued for the medicine and vaccine which fulfill the following criteria. First, the condition of the disease has been determined by the government as a public health emergency. Second, there is sufficient scientific evidence regarding the safety and efficacy aspect of drugs to prevent, diagnose, or treat the disease. The third is the quality of the product meets the established standards and comply with the current GMP. The benefit is greater against the risk-benefit analysis based on a non-clinical and clinical data review for the proposed indication. And the last is the no adequate and approved adequate alternative for diagnosis, prevention, or treatment of the disease. Next slide. In this regulation, EUA is issued with several post-approval responsibilities for the EUA holder, which are required to continue the clinical study developments or conduct the clinical study in Indonesia to ensure the safety and efficacy for the intended indication. And then second is the limited use and distribution. Third, given with requirements to continue a clinical trial and conduct strict pharmacovigilance monitoring. Each emergency use authorization shall be completed with a fact sheet for healthcare professional and patient leaflet. The Indonesia FDA could review the emergency use authorization that has been issued based on the current data, which could be resulted in AUA revocation or marketing authorization. Next slide, please. In the process of emergency use authorization of the medicine and vaccine, there are flexibilities and acceleration given by Badan POM. For the AUA submission, it is allowed to conduct rolling submission. The applicant can submit dossier in a wave of application according to the availability of data. Second, the timeline of evaluation maximum 20 working days after complete submission. The evaluation process will be started since the first submission. Evaluation process substantively the same with the normal process that follow the established standard of evaluation for quality, safety, and efficacy. The evaluation is also involving the National Committee for Drug Evaluation and ad hoc expert to develop recommendation for decision making. The expedition of evaluation process the expedition of the evaluation process is achieved by mobilize more evaluators to evaluate a single submission for AUA. So we prioritize the evaluation of the product for emergency use authorization. For the emergency use authorization, it is possible to have flexibility in the requirement of data as the development study may still under process. For instance, the stability data could be evaluated by having minimum 3 months of the real-time and accelerated of stability study. For the clinical data, we could consider the application with at least interim of phase 3 clinical study report for evaluation of efficacy of COVID-19 vaccine. Next slide, please. The pre-market control of COVID-19 vaccine is performed by process evaluation of quality control documents and good manufacturing practice inspection. Evaluation of the quality control documents involve control of the raw material and then control of the API manufacturing, antigen bulk characterization, control of antigen bulk, control of antigen bulks packaging material, antigen bulk stability. And then material and manufacturing process of finished vaccine products consists of vaccine formulation, control of vaccine product manufacturing, control of excipient, control of the final vaccine bulk, control of vaccine products packaging material, and then stability of the vaccine products. Next slide, please. The quality requirement of GMP compliance of the AUA drug and vaccine is basically the same with the regular or normal approval, provided the flexibility is only in the form of the accelerated of the real-time study of minimal 2 pilot batches for the at least 3 months and the process validation report of pilot scale with commitment of 3 first commercial batches validation report. And the assurance of GMP compliance is still mandatory as a normal registration. Next slide, please. To obtain full stationary, this is the requirements of the vaccine registration. To obtain full statutory approval of marketing authorization according to the regulation, comprehensive evaluation of the quality document, preclinical and clinical data should be done. Evaluation of the quality include the, sorry, I think it's already. For evaluation of the quality data include the active ingredients of vaccine, control of starting material, manufacturing process, active ingredients, bulk, active ingredient bulks, packaging materials, and stability of active ingredient bulk, vaccine product, including formulas, control of excipient, formulation, vaccine products, packaging materials, stability of the vaccine products. Evaluation of safety and efficacy is carried out through the evaluation of preclinical and clinical data. Preclinical data consists of in vitro immunogenicity study or in vivo immunogenicity study in animal and toxicity study. Clinical data consists of evaluation of clinical data includes evaluation of phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical study data to see the safety, efficacy, and the immunogenicity of the vaccine. Next slide, please. This is the safety and efficacy requirement vaccine for AUA approval, the flexibility. The following of two possible illustration of the minimum requirement for safety efficacy data for vaccine AUA approval, namely, first minimum phase 2 non-clinical and clinical data immunogenicity, which is a prediction of efficacy and safety with an adequate number of subjects based on standardized statistical studies and complete immunogenicity analysis and/or interim analysis of efficacy and safety data for at least 6 months. Second, non-clinical and clinical data for phase 3 with adequate number of subjects according to statistical calculation and completed immunogenicity analysis and interim data analysis of efficacy and safety for at least 3 months. Next slide, please. The EUA mechanism not only doing in Indonesia, but the W is known in WHO, in EMA, and then in the US FDA. So the flexibility is known in this regulatory tool. Next slide, please. Thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation can be useful for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam, for the detailed presentation, and thank you for taking time and gracing us this program. This would definitely be helpful to the manufacturers of India and Indonesia. Thank you so much for gracing us. We also recognize the presence of the Kadin officials from Kadin Association. We now moving forward. We request Mr. F. Tito Kusnadi, Chairman, GP Pharmacy, to kindly give his address on pharmaceutical business opportunities in Indonesia. Sir, Mr. Tito, I welcome you to kindly give your address.
Okay. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador of India for Indonesia, that's been Mr. Manoj Kumar. And also Ibu Nova Emelda from the PPOM or Indonesian FDA. And then Mr. Uday Paskar, it is from Director General of Pharmaxil. All the members of Pharmaxil and GP Pharmacy who are to participate in this meeting. We like to start directly, but the first of all, I must say thank you very much for the invitation by the Pharmaxil to be joined with this meeting. We want to explain with the topic of the pharmaceutical business opportunity in Indonesia. The outline, first I want to talk regarding the GP Pharmacy Indonesia, and the second, Indonesian pharma market, and third, transformation of the Indonesian pharma industry, and the fourth, potential business opportunity for pharma company, especially for API and the new product introduction. And the fifth is conclusion. Next. Okay. Gabungan Perusahaan Farmasi Indonesia or Indonesian Pharmaceutical Association, Indonesian Pharma Association, we have the mission. And the mission, I think, is the first, we must support to the government for the medical services and medical care to serve, and then to take a care, and also to protect the members, and also with honor and to do the right thing, and then to do the thing right and the national interest. We are the members, we have the member 216 pharmaceutical totally in Indonesia, and 2,700 distribution, and 21,000 pharmaceutical, and about 10,000 drugstore. And next, summary of Indonesian pharmaceutical market. From the 216 pharmaceutical company, that's mean 4 is from government, and then 187 is domestic company, domestic industry, and 25 multinational. And 95% of the raw material, 85 to 95% raw material must be imported, and around 2.5 billion in the year 2019. And the market share on the year 2019 is approximately 90 trillion rupiah, or 6.3 billion US dollar. And yes, and 8%. 73% value of the market covered by the domestic pharmaceutical company, and about the rest is by the multinational company. And we are also totally in the ASEAN market. That's mean Indonesia have around 27 to 30 to the 32% of the market in Asia, in ASEAN. And then current business model, the first we have to import API and excipient. That's mean I have already tell is around 85 to 95% is import. And we try to do the formulation and the manufacturers and then distribution. For the futures business of the model from Indonesia, we build the R&D, clinical trial, intermediate, and API. And after that, we start for formulation, manufacturers, and distributor or export. Next. Potential business opportunity for pharma companies in Indonesia. Number one, we are like even government or private company, that's mean invest for the pharmaceutical raw material or API, because we need a lot of API, and also new product introduction related with a high value. And we also like, especially with the material API, we have, and with the government also very interesting to build the manufacturer for produce API. Next. Consideration of FDA, API manufacturer in Indonesia, Indonesian government push for the local API manufacturers. 95% of the raw material still import from the abroad, and allowing 100% foreign investment in product of the pharmaceutical API manufacturer, finished product on the local partner need, and no local partner need anymore like before. Priority technology can be secured. And biopharmaceutical in Indonesia, research-based company has advantage to penetrate in Indonesian market. I think vaccine, product antiretroviral, and then erythropoietin product, immunostim, inter, and interferon, and then human insulin on analogs, growth hormones, all others, anti-neoplastic and anti-inflammation production. I think you can look from this list, because you can also copy from this list. Next. And also the product we have a lot here. I don't want to tell one by one, but this you can get from the copy from this presentation. Next. opportunity of product, biotech product in Indonesia also. I think that all the list and the presence in the US dollars also, you can copy from this because there's a lot of item. Next. Before conclusion, I think I must make the information, or maybe I like to give the information and also wrong image that pharmaceutical or medicine price in Indonesia are expensive. Frankly speaking, 70% of the pharmaceutical in the market, the price is really cheap and really a good price compared to other area, country in the other area with the Indonesian price. Because we heard sometime, from India, especially with the top people from India always say, that's mean Indonesia pharmaceutical price is still high. Frankly, Indonesia is not high anymore, especially after PPJS or health insurance, all the price of the, especially for the a generic pharmaceutical is going down until 40 to 50%. The price is now half price compared to about 5 or 10 years ago. And the conclusion is through NHI, National Health Insurance, drug consumption significant increase approximately 3 times in the volume in unit compared to about 5 years ago. High demand for the new product introduction, especially for the creatine therapeutic, certain therapeutic category, as I mentioned already before. Raising of the middle class had awareness and purchasing power and willingness to pay our side national health insurance as out of pocket money, OTC and herb, vitamin and nutraceutical complements market this real situation drug during the COVID-19 pandemic. That means many people, they're looking vitamin, especially vitamin C, vitamin D3 is very common, and a lot of people they like and they need. And Indonesia provide more investment, flexibility, and incentive for the API investment in Indonesia. That means this is very serious. If the India company especially produce for the API, please come to Indonesia. We are very open. But I think for the finished product, maybe you must think twice or 3 times or 4 times, because up to now, just only one Indian company is already invest in Indonesia. That means this is just also indicate price in Indonesia low. That means the margin very less. That's not attractive by the company want to invest in Indonesia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tito Kusnadi, Chairman GP Pharmacy, for the detailed presentation and also outlining the opportunities available for Indian companies and the niche products where they earn the. Thank you so much for associating with us and then supporting us through these years. Thank you so much, sir. Now we will move on to the Q&A, since I think we have the paucity of time now. May I now request Mr. Narayanan, Consular Embassy of India, to kindly give his concluding remarks. Thank you. We also recognize the presence of Mr. Satish Mehtani, Chairman, India Committee of Kadin. So now I request Mr. Naren, Consular Embassy of India, to kindly give his concluding remarks. Thank you, sir.
Salamat siang, Ibu dan Bapak Sakalian. Good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank JP Pharmacy for collaborating in this B2B with Pharmaxil for holding this event after a hiatus of 2 years. Last time we did was in a physical format in 2019. So I would like to specifically thank Pa Tirtho and Pa Vincent Harijanto. I would also take this opportunity to thank the India Committee Kadin for facilitating the presence of the pharma industry here through Mr. Satish Mehtani and Mr. Fakir Chand, the chairman and deputy chairman of the India Committee of Kadin. I would specifically like to thank Ibu Nova for her comprehensive presentation to the Yeah. See, I would like to also refer to the observation of DG Pharmaxil on the the point that the pharma sector, in terms of the bilateral context, is on an upward trajectory. I recall that in April 2020, when the COVID was at its peak in Indonesia, we had taken proactive measures to reach out to all the stakeholders in India for enabling the drugs such as oseltamivir, favipiravir, See, I was just mentioning the point that India values its position as the pharmacy of the world as a vehicle to reach out to the international community. As of today, India has donated 58 million vials of COVID vaccine to 71 countries across the world in Latin America, Caribbean, Asia, and Africa. So we are very confident that today's business meet will take the bilateral relations, and particularly in the pharma sector, from strength to strength. On that note, I would finally want to request Ibu Nova to shed some light on Regulation 10, 2021 of the PERPU, wherein we have found Ibu Nova, can you please give some more detailed account of Regulation 10 vis-a-vis the pharma sector? Thank you very much for everyone for today's participation, the Indonesian pharma sector, and I hope that you will have a productive B2B after this session. Thank you.